Hello, Uta Hagen here of Trans Widow Uta Hagen YouTube channel and WordPress blog, utahagengrasswidow.wordpress.com. That is always listed in the channel notes below. And the beautiful peaches and cream mums are in bloom along with my old stalwarts, the Jowie Winnie dahlias, and uh, the wonderful anemones, which all of them are very, very attractive to the bees. I'm not seeing a lot of butterflies these days. My count for the Great Spangled Fritillaries went up to 120, and we will see what what the next few weeks bring. And I think the last stem of my immortality reblooming irises. So I am surrounded by nature. I hope to do an outside one soon. Often there's a considerable amount of noise in the background, so I have to pick my times. Now, I just wanted to read you this letter that I'm going to get off. I'm actually sending for the first time 2 copies of my memoir, In the Curated Woods, True Tales from a Grass Widow, by priority mail to a rather famous journalist and independent channel creator. And I will let you know when that is all set up. There are a few interviews kind of coming my way now, which Vaishnavi Sundar, thank you, was kind enough to refer to me as a person who is up in the Hudson Valley in the States. So I decided to compose a letter outlining the areas which I can speak on, which are more than just my personal experience. So I'm going to say, Dear content creator, I so appreciate having this opportunity to tell the stories of trans widows. I discovered my then husband's cross-dressing diaries in 1992, when our sons were 1 and 4. I was still nursing the 1-year-old. I was an at-home mom in the middle of Brooklyn, living on the tight budget of my husband's salary from an academic organization. He now has 3 graduate degrees from Ivy schools: Columbia University, University of Chicago, and New York University. At the time of the discovery, he was at New York University, using family money for their huge tuition, for an MBA. He was also using time for so-called coursework to stage his covert cross-dressing life. He left me at home alone with an infant and toddler, with no family close by, as he dressed up and visited gay bars in Greenwich Village, with his sketchbooks in tow, writing down the reactions of the bartenders, patrons, and people on the street. I believe this journey extended back into the time when I was pregnant with our second son, as he claimed to be on business trips on a monthly basis from that time. I have no idea how much he spent on wardrobe, likely also wigs, accessories, and makeup. I only know that he had bespoke shirts, Pierre Cardin suits and shoes for his work wardrobe, while I was wearing my worn pregnancy clothing for years after the births of our children. As many men who live covert cross-dressing lives do, he kept these expenditures under deep cover. He was often dismissive and insulting to me through the pregnancies and infancies of our sons. At the time, I took his moods to be an indication of the stress he felt as the sole breadwinner. I tried to reassure him I'd get back to work in a teaching job after our boys were school age, hoping in vain that he'd feel buoyed and lifted by my promise to take part in the financial life of our family, Meanwhile, I was cooking lentil soup from scratch as well as sewing and knitting items such as jackets, sweaters, and overalls for our little boys to save money. Like many AGP men, or possibly he's a self-hating homosexual, he retconned or reworked most of his childhood to fit the diagnosis as a, in quotes, transsexual. The words gender and transgender came later as the terminology of captured language developed. Lived experience and true life test were part of this lexicon. My husband used the suicide narrative to manipulate me and detailed how he fit every point in the wrong body since birth narrative of the Blanchard protocols. I can debunk Ray Blanchard's theories point by point as an early childhood educator, now retired. Where am I? Yes, versed in Jean Piaget's stages of development. The long accepted Piaget standards, which the National Institutes of Health list on their website, follow Piaget's descriptions: sensory, motor, pre-operational, concrete operational, and formal operational stages of development. The ideation of an opposite sex persona regress the teen or adult back into an early childhood stage, concrete operational, typically ages 3 to 6, in which objects like clothing and makeup are used as proof of the gender dysphoria diagnosis and the female brain concept. That is, of course, for the male. It is not possible for an infant in the sensory motor stage or toddler in the concrete operational stage to exhibit language for declaring he's, in quotes, born in the wrong body. The use of this fiction puts children who are being sexually or physically molested at risk of severe trauma. When a child expresses cross-sex ideation, a careful examination of the home life and adults the child interacts with must occur. Many detransitioners tell us they wanted out of their sexed bodies as a reaction to an adult molester. If you look up the case of Nix Mary Brown, who was killed by her mother's boyfriend, despite teachers' desperate reports to child services, these considerations arise. While Nix Mary Brown was not reported to have ideated that she was a boy, if she had lived longer, that might have started. I think she was 6 or 7. Another notorious case is the story of the physical and sexual abuse of Lisa Steinberg, who was killed at the hands of her abusive adopted father at a young age. I think it was 6. Who knows what kind of ideations Nix Mary and Lisa would have developed if they'd lived and the abuse continued. This is the glaring child safeguarding flaw of the trans movement, and I believe they treat detransitioners so poorly in order to silence them and sweep the safeguarding risks under the rug. Thus, I can speak to the trans widow's experience of betrayal, trauma, abuse, and abandonment by society. I can speak to the falseness of the since earliest memory narrative, the AGP phenomenon, that is autogynephilic, and the child safeguarding dangers. I've also been contacted by those who have witnessed extreme child abuse on the part of a cross-dressing man, but I have been stymied by the witnesses' need for anonymity. In one case, a friend of the family witnessed a so-called transitioned father dangerously shake his 1-year-old daughter during a manic episode in their home where illegal drugs were also scattered about. This witness would not even tell me the town in Massachusetts to allow me to make an anonymous report. This little girl would be 5 or 6 years old now. I've also been contacted by a woman who said she was writing from a locked guest room as her husband was soon to arrive home after a cross-dressing expedition, when he typically would demand kink sex sessions from her. She wanted to answer my survey, 20 questions to ask a trans widow. I had to tell her she's not in a safe situation, and after she leaves, to contact me. These men are very controlling, and her contact with me via the internet could put both of us at risk. Many trans widows are too beaten down to attempt to get out her story. Many trans widows, they fear that their own children will snub them and disown them, that the ex-husband and his allies will defame her. The myth of the nice ones is promoted by all of the LGBTQ++ organizations, despite their violence towards those who advocate for women's only spaces. Kelly J. Keene, Riley Gaines, J.K. Rowling, Genevieve Gluck, and Kara Dansky come to mind. All of them have been threatened with physical violence. And of course, Kelly J. Keene was mobbed in New Zealand and now was attacked a second time with some kind of tomato soup at a meeting, a public demonstration of women speaking our truth. As well, the website named Trans Journalists Association Style Guide tells writers and journalists to block the stories of the ex-wives and children in, rather shocking, George Orwell, 1984, fashion. My focus is on debunking the falsehoods, protecting children, and healing for trans widows. My memoir contains 50 nature photos for the purpose of the healing. I also hope to provide ideas for addressing identity-based obsessive-compulsive disorder, originated recently as a name for this malady by child psychologist Dr. Elliot Kamenetsky, healing in holistic mind-body therapies such as Feldenkrais physical therapy, Alexander work, so that sex trait modifications through hormones and surgeries will simply go out of fashion. Thanks for all you do, and thank you for contacting me. As usual, I am available for Zoom interviews. A certain select group of people will be invited to meet me in person in my garden, and the contact form at utahagengrasswidow.wordpress.com is how to contact me. Thank you to all my subscribers, and God bless Vaishnavi Sundar, and God bless all the trans widows in Behind the Looking Glass at Lime Soda Films YouTube channel. God bless us, everyone.